This fall, I'm excited to enjoy one of Philly's most walkable neighborhoods that goes car-free during Open Streets, West Walnut. On Sundays starting September 7th through October 12th, everyone can shop, stroll, and socialize along 7 city blocks of pedestrian-friendly space in Center City, including sections of West Walnut and 18th Streets. There's going to be outdoor dining, live entertainment, and retail promotions. It's really a peaceful way to enjoy this expansion of public space. For more details, head over to centercityphila.org/open streets. For more details, head over to centercityphila.org/open streets. We've heard this week about its past, from its colonial markets to its music hotspots to its near destruction. But what's next for South Street? Over the last 2 days on the podcast, we've been exploring the many blocks of this corridor and its complex history, going back centuries. Our most iconic strip continues to lead Philly into the future with newcomers like Marsha's. That's Philly's first women's sports bar. And neighborhood staples like Jim's, which recovered from a fire and is now bigger and more iconic than ever. But retail vacancy and reports of less foot traffic has business owners on South Street wondering if it can reinvent itself once again. It's Wednesday, September 10th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and this is our last episode in our series on South Street. Stay with us. South Street has long been a hotspot for unique businesses. This is where Julia Zagar opened Eyes Gallery in 1968, which specializes in folk art from around the world. It's where what's considered the oldest LGBTQ and feminist bookstore in the country opened, Giovanni's Room, back in 1973. South Street has long welcomed people and ideas that may have not been accepted elsewhere. It's what South Street is. But by the 90s, chains like Gap and Tower Records dotted South Street, and the recession and shifts to online retail led to an exodus of some businesses in the 2000s. Today, the South Street we know looks a lot different than the one we've talked about in the past 2 days. And today, the South Street we know looks a lot different than the one we've been talking about in the last 2 days. Finding live music any day of the week is harder. Bars aren't open as late, and you can't help but notice empty storefronts. But that South Street spirit, it's still there if you look for it. There's more than a half a dozen tattoo shops. There's an art gallery next to a cheesesteak shop, the longest running drag night in Philly, and a legendary music venue. It's all there. Plus, there's a cannabis museum and a shop that is selling DVDs. Over South Street's 25 blocks from river to river, you can find chains like Acme and Whole Foods east of Broad Street and Wawa on the west side. There's 2 Starbucks and a Federal Donuts, massive pizza slices at Lorenzo and Sons, and chicken cheesesteaks at 2 Ishkabibble locations. There's Bridget Foy's and Fat Tuesday and Milk Boy. And unique businesses like South Street Art Mart and Passional Boutique, and the Black-owned bookstore and cultural center, Black & Noble. Our current era of South Street is rooted in the 1990s as urban centers became attractive for young people looking to live near their work and their nightlife.
It's amazing to me how much you really see that in the distinct retail mix today that you have in that area.
Richardson Dilworth is a grandson of a former Philly mayor. He's also a political scientist at Drexel University.
So, among other things, is obviously the prevalence of smoke shops, which is, you see that everywhere now, but certainly South Street was a leader in that not necessarily desirable business. On 4th Street, just immediately south of South Street, you have the densest concentration of tattoo shops in the entire city. You still have reflected in retail a lot of that original racial diversity. I mean, when Black & Noble opened up a satellite store on South Street, Condom Kingdom is one of the longest standing retailers on South Street. That's, I think, an interesting reflection. And then you had Harry's Occult and Spiritual Shop for a long time. And there still is a store that's the legacy of Harry's Occult and Spiritual down there. So all that is incredibly unique, and the bookstores themselves are unique. Wooden Shoe didn't start on South Street, but it's on South Street, and Garland of Letters, I think, is quite unique as well. It's been there forever.
One of those unique, specific only to South Street type of businesses that Richardson mentioned is Condom Kingdom. We all went there as young adults. That's a battery-powered sex toy. You could get that and some condoms and so much more here. Stu Schloffman, owner of Condom Kingdom, opened the legendary business in 1992.
About 2.5 years before that, I had an ice cream store on South Street called Hillary's Ice Cream, which was a franchise. It wasn't doing well, so I knew that I was going to be closing it. And it was during like the AIDS epidemic where, think people were really concerned about condom use and so forth. And a condom store opened up in New York. It was the very first condom store. Then a second condom store opened up over here on 4th Street called Condom Nation. And I just thought it was a great idea. What a great idea. And I wanted to open up a store like that.
And you mentioned like the AIDS epidemic. Did you see your store as maybe educating folks, protecting folks, saving lives?
When we first opened up our store was not called Condom King. It was called Safer Life Stores. And it was actually that rendition up there. Mm-hmm. If you notice, see the two doors in the back?
Yeah.
The one to the right was like a little phone booth area where you could pick up, we had a phone in there, you could pick up the phone and you were connected to the AIDS hotline. So if you had questions, you could go in private and do that. We also were very educational as far as what we know about AIDS back then. From the moment we opened up our door, we were very concerned about education. It took about a year after we opened to get into the sex toys. Because just selling condoms and lubes and some fun condom related material just wasn't cutting it. It just wasn't making us
like
money.
The sales weren't
like
good.
The sales,
yeah.
I mean, people were in. I mean, you couldn't even get through the door. We were on fire. I mean, we were on fire. It was great.
Stu, tell me about how the brand of Condom Kingdom evolved. So it is a huge CK in a like metal gate with a crown over the C. Mm-hmm. How did that happen?
It was just more of a thing. Like, let's play off just Condom Kingdom. I mean, first we came up with the name. Obviously, you saw the pictures, and the store didn't look like a castle or anything. It was just a sign out front. So we just started playing when we moved over to this newer location, the larger location. We just said, let's really play off Condom King, the kingdom part. So that's why when you walk through the store, there's, it looks like a castle. It feels like you're in the courtyard of a kingdom, basically, or a castle.
When you walk into the doors, there is a waterfall.
Right, yes.
And there's this large
There's actually
tree.
a drawbridge, too, that you probably
really?
don't realize that you walked over. Yeah,
you have to
the
show
whole
me
thing.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not officially a drawbridge, but it's kind of just mine. There's a lot of things in the store that you wouldn't even realize that were in the store, but there's like little, even on the outside.
Well, I see the flying sperm, right?
Yeah, but outside, incorporated in the building are little sperms in the building too, that you wouldn't even know they were there unless I pointed them out to you.
So why incorporate that stuff?
Just because of branding, and I just thought I wanted it to be in your face. You know what I mean? It's like, you saw the pictures, even when it was called Safer Life, condoms is like a big neon sign. I wanted to stir things up a little bit, I was scared to hang that condom sign out front, actually, when we first opened.
Did you get pushback?
No, none at all. I was shocked. But it's South Street, so,
Businesses like Condom Kingdom attracted young people to South Street and gave the street a kind of edginess that made it a cool place to hang out and live. Conrad Benner, a lifelong Philadelphian and founder of the local arts blog Streets Department, has been hanging out on South Street for 2 decades.
Would have been like 2005, 2006 when I moved over there. Things were different and the same, like a lot of places in Philly. Things were probably more affordable, but I still think it just always has been and always, I think, will be a place for like eclectic everything. I think that's one of the things that drew me over there. So there's everything you want is kind of over there. When I was in high school, it was about going to that Starbucks on 4th Street, getting like a stupid sugar drink and just like sipping it as you walked up and down the street. When I was living there in my early 20s, it was about going to, I think it was called The Bean. There was a coffee shop right around the corner on South Street. And like they would be open until like midnight or 1 a.m. or something. I'd get like an espresso and like read a book. I felt like Felicity for all the older millennials who might remember that show.
Yes.
When I applied to a few jobs on South Street because I was living right there. And the only one I got was at Whole Foods. And anyone knows, I think Whole Foods is a little bit different now, but also a little bit the same. But back then it was like super hippie and it wasn't owned by Amazon yet. And lots of artists worked there. So I met a whole new group of people, folks from Philly, folks from around the country who had just moved to Philly because maybe they graduated college or something. Because in 2005, it was like the place to go if you wanted to be in the Northeast. And it was through these friendships and through living on South Street that I really like started to go to more art shows. I would walk the quick walk over to Old City to go to First Friday shows. There's a lot of reasons I love it.
I want to get back to that story where you said you'll get a sugary drink from Starbucks.
Yeah.
And you mentioned working at Whole Foods. So those are larger chains, but there also was Tower Records.
Oh my God.
Gap, right?
Well, and the Gap being a chain too, or Pearl. Remember, it was the Pearl art studio space or like artist supply store. But yeah, that's also goes to describe the kind of eclecticness of that street has always had. Maybe a little bit less now, but certainly it did in the late 90s, early 2000s when, the Gap was next to an independent, store. Julia Zagar's gallery was next to, Jim's Steaks. So when you went there, you never really knew what you were going to get, but that was what was so exciting. I think as a kid, too, the thing that attracted me to it is it felt a bit like the boardwalk down the shore or like the Spencer's gift shop when you would go to the mall. Like there was stuff like you knew you weren't supposed to see or something, like go to Condom Kingdom and just like giggle. And like the staff knew you weren't supposed to be there either, but everyone was just like fine with it. And you'd pick up something and laugh at it and like run out. I felt like I was on a sitcom more than once a week when our Whole Foods shift would end. We'd walk the 2 or 3 blocks over to Tattooed Moms and get like a bite to eat there or get a few drinks. And then Tattooed Moms became this place that totally inspired me. I mean, not only did I have my 21st birthday there, when I broke my leg when I was 24, I got hit by a van. My friends hosted a fundraiser for me there and they gave me like all the bar proceeds. So a few $1,000s to help pay my rent and some bills at that time. It was really great. Wow. And I've stayed connected there ever since. I mean, obviously I run a blog about street art and it's like this unofficial street art museum of Philadelphia.
So basically what I gathered from your young adult life living and working on South Street, you were walking around, you were engaging with art, and you are essentially still doing that now. You are a champion of Philadelphia art. You run the art magazine and blog Streets Department. You have a podcast at WHYY, Art Outside. You live and breathe Philly's art scene. How has South Street been also the champion of Philly art?
I lived on South Street from 19 to 23. And South Street is basically a museum of art. Every alley, every pole is full of stickers. There's Tattooed Moms, which is the unofficial street art museum. All the alleys are full of art and lots of galleries as well. I think one of the challenges with kind of all commercial corridors, but including South Street, is what do you do when the economy shifts and there's vacancies for some amount of time of some of these spaces? And I think South Street has been one of those places over the years that has engaged those vacancies with really interesting projects like temporary art galleries or art installations. There's a lot of Zagar work, Magic Gardens work.
Yeah, that's a theme we've been seeing again and again, like South Street resurrecting itself. And you've been talking about Tattooed Moms, which is a bar that literally looks different every time you go in there because there's new stickers on the walls. And, you also mentioned artist Isaiah Zagar's Magic Gardens, which is this open-air museum of mosaic tiles built on 2 former vacant lots.
And you can't go wrong with the Magic Gardens. I mean, if you've never been to the Magic Gardens, you got to go. I mean, it's so unique to Philadelphia. We're often called the mural capital of the world, and a lot of that is thanks to Mural Arts Philadelphia, which started as the Anti-Graffiti Network in 1984. But, Zagar and the Magic Gardens were doing their work well before that. So, and plenty of other people. Murals weren't invented by mural arts, but Zagar has dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of murals all over South Philly, including a lot of these alleys that we're talking about around South Street.
South Street today is colorful for sure, but it's also in a lot of ways vacant. And that's why some business owners are concerned about the direction that the street is heading.
I'm very worried about South Street right now.
That's Stu from Condom Kingdom, who we heard from earlier.
There's some things happening on South Street that I am not happy with. That after, now we've been here 32 years, so I've been on the street for 34 years. And then before that, just as a customer or, coming down with my parents and seeing how it used to be. And the nightlife has changed. I mean, we used to stay open until 12 midnight. We close at 9 o'clock now, during the week. Weekends, we still open until 11. But we don't see the business anymore. After that 10 o'clock, it's dead. It's dead.
Is that because of activity that's been happening over the years, like violence?
Yeah, but that happens everywhere in the city. It's not just South Street. For some reason, we've become the poster child to that, and I'm not sure why.
You said it's changing.
Because if you take there's no day business down here. It's not like we're in this center city where there's office buildings and things. People live here and then they leave to go to work during the day. So nobody's here during the day.
So you're reliant on
We're relying on nighttime business, on the nightlife. So that from that 3 o'clock on was our busiest times of the days. Now I can't even really say that anymore.
So there is no concept of late night pizza at Lorenzo's or cheesesteaks at Ishkabibbles or walks into Condom Kingdom at night.
You can't get, because you can't, how do you get here? Where do you park?
Part of what Stu is concerned about is how in recent years, police have sometimes shut down the east end of the street from about Front to 5th Streets after 10 p.m. on weekend nights that keep away the cars and ATVs and dirt bikes that cruise along the strip playing music. When the street is close to traffic, he says there's fewer shoppers. The crackdown came after a 2022 mass shooting around the 400 block of South Street that left 3 dead and 11 people injured. The other high-profile incidents of violence have also damaged South Street's reputation, like Mardi Gras in 2001, when about 40,000 people flocked to the street.
South Street is reeling after a night of mayhem. The Mardi Gras celebrations turned into a riot complete with looting last night.
And then there was the looting. Several stores had windows smashed and merchandise stolen overnight. It was all starting about 11:50 as police pushed the rowdy crowd west. Some stopped in front of a store called Blondie's Boutique. They smashed the window, pulled out clothing and a mannequin. Next, it was
roughly close to 30 to 50,000 people out here. Just a very large crowd, a lot larger than anyone could have expected. Right now, there is a large cleanup effort underway, which is personal.
By nighttime, businesses were looted, windows were broken, and about 100 people were arrested. Beyond the crime, when you walk down the street, the amount of empty storefronts are quite obvious. Even before the pandemic, the vacancy rate on the street was 18%, double the 7% vacancy rate citywide. So we talked to Councilmember Mark Squilla, who represents parts of South Street, about what the city is doing to keep this area vibrant.
Growing up as a kid, we used to walk to South Street, right, from South Philly. It may have been a mile and a half, and so it was always the place to go, right? Whether you just wanted to walk up and down the street or whether when you were old enough to go in. Maybe we weren't old enough and you wanted to go in some of those places. But it changed a lot, right? There's been challenges on South Street. We had some issues on South Street. We're trying to reimagine it, right? How do we build a street that's eclectic, that's artsy, right? That's attractive to visitors, but also to residents, right? Why can't we have both? So, we're working with the South Street Head House District, Queen Village and Society Hill, looking at how can we reimagine it. Do they need subsidies on South Street, right, to build? Do you increase the zoning of South Street, particularly to add density maybe to the buildings above South Street, right? How do we get the landlords who have a lot of those properties that keep them vacant, how do we get them interested in redeveloping them, right? And so what they're doing is looking to put together a plan, sort of a master plan of what South Street could be. How do we change that in a way that still makes it sort of that neat place to visit if you wanted a certain vibe, but also feel safe, right? And also be community driven, but have that neat place where everybody meets at South Street and could still go out and have a good time, but be safe.
A business on South Street that witnessed many of these changes and survived it all is Jim's South Street. Stay tuned to hear from the owner of this iconic South Street cheesesteak spot that literally rose from the ashes and continues to thrive today. That's after the break. The Pottery Spottery, a paint-your-own pottery studio, is now open. The studio is located at 1805 East Passyunk Avenue. It's fun and easy. Simply choose an item to paint, like a gnome, a mug, a unicorn, or a flower pot. You can choose your favorite colors and then paint. They have over 100 items to choose from, starting at just $15. One price includes time in the studio, everything you need to create, and firing of your masterpiece in their kiln. The Pottery Spottery fires your creation for you, so don't worry about that. You don't need a reservation, and you can actually reserve their large back room for parties. The grand opening is Friday, September 12th. Learn more at thepotteryspottery.com. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Kidney cancer is one of the most common types of childhood cancer. The Kidney Center Association is committed to creating awareness and raising funds for research to find a cure through Chalk Your Walk. Kids, artists, and anyone with a heart for kids can raise awareness for childhood kidney cancer by chalking up their pavement with messages of hope. Find out more at chalkyourwalk.org. For me, mornings are chaos. Getting the kids ready for school, squeezing in a 4-mile walk before my production meeting, grabbing my Huel Black Edition saves my mornings. I used to get hangry and reach for several cups of coffee before, but now I actually feel satisfied and on my game in the mornings. Fall is coming up. School and work are ramping up. Life is busy for all of us. I get it. You get it. Time is tough to come by, especially to get a meal that helps you towards your goals. Fortunately, Huel gets it too. It's spelled Huel. Their Black Edition powder is a complete meal, so you feel full, focused, and ready for the day. At less than $3 per meal, it's packed with 40 grams of plant protein and 27 essential vitamins and minerals. No added sugar, it's gluten-free, tastes great, with flavors like vanilla, salted caramel, and chocolate. Plus, it keeps me full for hours. It's perfect for breakfast, lunch, or post-workout. And just when you thought Huel had everything covered, they've just dropped a first-of-its-kind super greens drink in a can. It's called the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. Forget the powders, forget the pills. There's no mixing, no mess. It's quick and convenient without compromising nutrients. It's sparkling and it comes in flavors like blueberry, apple, and peach. 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories, 4 grams of fiber, 1 gram of sugar. Made by dietitians. Try Huel with 15% off for new customers today using my code Philly at Huel.com/Philly. Fuel your best performance with Huel today. Okay, so what is your cheesesteak order?
My cheesesteak order is Whizway.
How often do you eat cheesesteaks?
Once a week.
Once a week. That's Ken Silver, owner of Jim's South Street. This cheesesteak spot is on the corner of South and 4th Streets. It's considered by a lot of Philadelphians as the best cheesesteak in the city. Part of why I got excited to try a Jim's cheesesteak again is because the business had a fire in 2022 that shut them down for 2 years. And when I think about Jim's, I think about all the memories as a teenager hanging out on South Street, eating cheesesteaks, and it tastes the same. I recently visited the new Jim's upstairs dining room, which is filled with the kinds of colorful mosaics that you find all over South Street, thanks to the artist Isaiah Zagar and his wife Julia. Now, after the fire hit both Jim's and the Zagar's Eyes Gallery next door, Jim's took over the space.
This was the first place that Isaiah started to experiment in this medium. This is where he started implanting glass and cutting into the concrete and things like that. You can even look through the skylights and see that that's the outside over on this side and over on this side too. You can still see some of his original work.
It says Philadelphia is the center of the art world.
Yeah, that's his slogan. Yeah, and and this was all redone. So what you're seeing on these 3 walls are original, and the ceiling, this wall, into the skylights, that was all redone for the renovation, and that was all done by the Magic Arts.
This room is obviously super colorful and you can see yourself through the mirrors. But to me, I see community and just knowing that you all have this relationship, that's special.
Yeah, when Julia approached me and said that they did not necessarily want to rebuild the Eyes Gallery from what they were going to have to do here. The first thing that I thought of was we need to save what's here. And we knew that a lot of it was going to have to come down. We were going to have to put a new stairs in, both upstairs to this floor and downstairs to the basement, which required gutting the center of this building. And there was so much art, and there was that was part of the building that we knew was going to be lost. And I said and I promised them, as part of the negotiation to buy the building, was we will save as much as we can save, and we will make it part of the combined properties. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, this is a great room. My favorite room is what I call the atrium room, which is if you go into the center of and look up, it goes up 2 stories. To me, it's the coolest thing in here. 2
iconic Philadelphia institutions coming together.
Mm-hmm. That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
And I've heard this is so South Street, because we are traditional Art Deco, black and white and silver, and would never think to change it because that's iconic. This is near chaos and color everywhere, and we married the 2 of them, and it's so South Street because all of these things overlap.
This is my favorite place because this is where it began when I was a teenager and I was allowed to go on the L. I came right down here, went right down to South Street, and I ate the cheesesteak. It was nice and hot. So this is special to me. But I have to ask, I've never understood, who is Jim?
So it's a long story, but back in 1939, Jim Perlinghi created his version of the cheesesteak in his kitchen in West Philadelphia, and eventually opened up through his living room window a takeout stand on 62nd Street. And that was the origination of Jim's, and it operated at that same location for 60 some years before Billy Proetto, who eventually purchased the property, passed away, left the location to his estate, and then it's since closed.
So your father, Abner Silver, bought into this business back in the 1970s?
So my father was Billy Proetto's attorney who helped negotiate the deal for the original gyms at 62nd Street. And when this location became available, he partnered with Billy and they opened this together. And my father was the general partner, pretty much the face of the location. Billy already had another location to be the face of, and Billy was the silent partner. And they ran it together until Billy's passing in 2011.
What is it about maybe the community on South Street that's important to you?
We're a pretty tightly knit group on South Street. Especially the businesses that have history and longevity. A lot of the business owners are very proactive in the South Street Head House District. I'm the current chairman of the board of the South Street Head House District. There's a deep loyalty to one another. When anybody's having a sale or anybody wants to promote something, I ask them to give me a poster and we'll put it in our window. We'll put it on our counter space if you have flyers that you want to hand out or you have discount coupons or anything like that. We are only as good as the rest of the street. If the street deteriorates to the point where people don't feel comfortable coming down here, they're not going to come down here just for gyms. They might, but they'll come down here a lot more frequently if there's other things to do. And everybody doesn't want a cheesesteak. You know, some people might want a slice of pizza, or other people might want to go and get a salad somewhere. You know, Jim's is a really great sandwich, but it's definitely not the healthiest thing that you can put in your body at any one particular point in time. So, if you want to, experience all that there is on South Street, you can come here 200 different days a year and find 200 different things to do. Because there's 400 businesses on South Street in the whole South Street Head House District.
The South Street Head House District was established in 1993 to help keep the area between Front and 11th Streets along South Street safe, clean, and more desirable for businesses and customers alike. It can do things like pay for extra services beyond what the city provides, like a contract with city police for extra enforcement to address issues with crime and quality of life.
What are some top of mind issues that business owners on South are concerned about?
Brick and mortar is challenging. There are a lot more places to go than South Street in the greater Philadelphia area now than there used to be. Old City is much more vibrant. Northern Liberties didn't exist 20 years ago. Manayunk University City now has a thriving commercial corridor. None of those places, Bella Vista. So there's just so many more places to go. We're competing, and so when we're competing, we don't necessarily have the density that we used to. We're probably off 15% from our peak prior to the fire, and we're still, a very busy, vibrant cheesesteak location, but we've noticed that foot traffic is down just in general. And I think that's just because there are so many other places that you can go. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, is still crazy busy here. It's probably the other times that are less peak that are a little off. And I think that's just the general commercial environment that we're operating under today.
A lot of people know South Street to be the place to hang out at night. What's your take on where Philly is now, where South Street is now in terms of safety, or that safety question for after hours, after 5 p.m.?
I'm down here a lot at night. I don't really have any problem walking up and down the street by myself. We do have a security guard that comes in at 8 o'clock at night and stays until the staff leaves in the evening. I think that's just preventative. But as far as the general safety on South Street, there isn't a whole lot that goes on that would be any different than anywhere else in the city or even the suburbs for that matter. Things happen, but they're usually personal things between groups of people or, known actors, that kind of thing. Knock on wood, we've never had any criminal activity at Jim's since we opened in 1976.
Do you still hear like the those two-seater cars blasting music on South? I forget what you call those things.
Slingshots.
Yeah.
So we do. See, I'm not that old. So we do have, a lot of like cruiser activity. It's not as bad as it used to be. I think probably pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, it was really loud down here.
But what is South Street in the future?
I think South Street in the future is probably the same types of marriages of various businesses just changing with the times. There used to be a pager store on every block, and you guys be like, pager store? What the hell's a pager store? I know what a pager is. But that was a thing back in the 80s. Everybody had a pager, and it was cool if you had a pager. So then that went out and it became something else. And then the mobile, there was 20 mobile phone stores on South Street, and now there aren't any anywhere. So I think we just keep evolving. I think businesses want to keep coming down here because we're South Street. They know that they're going to get generated activity even if they do nothing. There'll be people here. So that's one reason to come to South Street. And I think what we find is that the diversity of businesses continues.
I left Jim's that day hopeful. My favorite cheesesteak spot burned here on South Street. And not only did it come back, it came back with a mosaic tiled interior designed by a local artist who has been here for half a century. It's the old, it's the new, and the rejuvenation here on South Street. It's a story of Philly itself. I want to hear from you. What do you think is next for South Street? Give us a call at 215-259-8170 or email us, philly@citycast.fm. Thanks so much for taking this ride along South Street with me. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.